It's going to be my first try at recording pre-tinning these FET spots on the back of the Teensy. And I'm hoping you guys will be able to see this. Very small stuff. There. So my FET pads are all pre-tinned now. Try to get that focused. And you can see the FET pads are pre-tinned. Now we're going to solder on FETs. This is soldering. We're going to see how this works. And I got to reach around the camera here. This is soldering on a FET. I don't like how that one ended up. See how those legs look now? Those legs look a little bit better. Let's hit them. And let's hit the front leg again. So there is one FET soldered on, as you can see there. And then I'm going to do the same. Let me get a pointer. I'm going to do the same here on this slot for LED 5, and then again in this slot on LED 4. Alright, so now all my FETs are soldered on the back side of the Teensy board. You can see them here located in their slots at LEDs 4, 5, and 6. I'm really happy with 6 and 4, and I might go back and redo 5. It's a little bit far back in the slot, but pretty happy with 4 and 6. But, you know, that's not that difficult. Alright, so this is using a razor blade to separate the VIN from the VUSB. Like Frederick says, you gotta cut that trace away right there. A couple swipes with a razor blade, and we should be good. And how I test that is then I'll run continuity across it to make sure it's cut. So let me get my leads out here. And we're going to test. And I got tone on test. And you can see I've got no tone there between those pads, so I've cut the trace. So we're solid, we're golden there. Now the next thing I'm going to do, because I'm thinking about putting a Bluetooth on here, and if that's the case, then I need to wire these wires on RX, which is pad 26, and TX, which is pad 31 on the back. So I'm going to tin those and add wires to those and probably run them out this way. And those will go to my Bluetooth, so I don't have to use my data line, so I can still use my data lines for alternate blades, but then I gotta adjust all kinds of crap in the main Saber program, so this is kind of advanced. So here's my transmit and receive wires, and I've actually used a little bit of hot glue for stress release because I'm using 30 gauge wires here, and I've got gray as my transmit going to 1631, so I've covered up the number, so 26, that's right, and 31. So the gray is actually going to the transmit, which is 31, and the brown is going to receive, which is 26 on the back of the Teensy. And I've used 30 gauge wire here, and this is for Bluetooth wireless that I may install in the Saber. Now I've added header pins, and I'm doing header pins all the way on this board, and you can see my header pins there. Make sure you leave these front pads along the front of the TeensySaber open, and then I did my header pins there. They're still loose. I'm getting ready to put the Teensy 3.2 on top of this. You can see the 2 there and then the 8 there. So we are ready to solder the Teensy 3.2 onto this once I get these together. Okay, I have soldered on my FETs onto the back of the TeensySaber board. I've actually added transmission and receive wires, and now I'm going to begin soldering the boards together. So there is 1 pin, 2, 3. Get this in frame here so you can see as I go. I'm not watching it on the screen, so any minor movements, take it off screen. Now we get to our 2 doubles. Boom. That first one might need a little bit more solder. And you see solder flow around the back of it. There we go. And then our last 2 doubles on this side of the Teensy 3.2. Bada bing. Now we're going to flip her around. We're going to start at this end at the USB. By the way, this Teensy board is for Mike Singh. This one's going into an Imperial Knight lightsaber, and I'm sorry, it's Tony Singh, and he's out of Hong Kong. And the chassis is on the way. I've got a Goth 3D Designs chassis on the way for her. It's a Padawan chassis, but I'm going to try and dress it up a little bit. And like I said, I'm going to clean that soldering tip off. See, the back side of this pin doesn't appear to have enough solder, so I'm going to hit that again. There we go. See that solder flow around there? That's when you know she's good, when she flows all the way around the pin. This video is way better than the first one I shot with my GoPro. Let's see here. Now we've got these last 4 pins. Let me try to get it in frame. There. Bingo. Bingo, bango. So let me focus in and out of this. So, you know, when it initially focuses, you see the top of the pin, and then I'm going to focus down to the solders on the board. Now I'll clean all these, the flux that's in the solder off of there. But there you go. There's the pins on the Teensy 3.2. Now we have to flip it over and solder the TeensySaber pins on the back side of the TeensySaber. Okay, so now we're soldering the pins onto the TeensySaber V3. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now, you know, Frederick said not to put them together this way because it's hard to get them apart. And you can't send the boards back to them once you do this, but you know, if something's wrong with the board, I have enough spares. And I think this is just a more solid way. I'm going to spin this around and try to get it in frame here as I start here on this ground pin. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then we'll try and get these last 4 in frame here so you can see them go. 1, 2, 3, and the last one, 4. And again, I will try to focus to the top of the pin and then down to the solders. And that is the TeensySaber board. All the header pins are soldered on the back of the TeensySaber board. So my TeensySaber is now together. Let's see if I can zoom and show you what those solders look like from the side. Now, it's important, you know, that these solders are making good contact, because I'm trying to find my pointer that has disappeared on me here. These solders are important because they have to make contact. These solders have to make contact with the pins on the TeensySaber board, and then on the other side, these solders have to make contact with the pins on the Teensy 3.2, because these boards are actually communicating and sending signals back and forth. So you have to make sure you have good solders. I think most of the errors I see, you know, on the internet or hear about, I mean, people don't have the solders good on both sides of the board. And this is definitely critical aspect to have the solders good on both sides of the boards. And so while we're here, you can remember in my previous video, but this ground pin, now I'm on the back of the TeensySaber 3, you can see, because there's my MOSFETs. Wow, the solders look really bad on that one, but they're not. That's just some melted PCB or something. Well, we'll test it here in a minute. But the bottom line is, you got to remember this ground pin right here. You have to solder a jumper from this wire all the way over to your battery negative here. And I, solder that jumper on the back side of the board. And when you solder that jumper in on the back side of the board, remember this ground pin here is what powers your micro USB, but it also powers the SD slot, which is in there as well. So, bada bing. Alright, so the last bit of prep here is to wire my jumper wire on the back of the TeensySaber board. So bada bing. As I was saying before I got rudely interrupted there, is the cool thing about PTFE wires is that they really do stay stripped where you strip them. So you can see that I've got that wrapped around the, and I may try and use something more microscopic to get it wrapped around a little bit better. There we go. That's pretty decent. Now I'm going to butter up my iron here and go in for the kill. And then let's test for continuity across those two. Bingo. We're in business. We're in business. So, the cool thing about PTFE is, I don't know if you can see that, but where I stripped that wire back to, you know, I only stripped exactly what I needed to go into the pad, and you know, the same holds true on this end. It's very neat, very tidy, and you know, I can actually cut that little bit of excess sticking off there, and you can see how nice and neat and tidy that wire is. Certainly looks a lot better than my FET job. I'm probably going to have to redo that LED 4 FET. I got to test it here in a bit. But there's your jumper wire from the battery negative to the ground. Don't forget that wire. Alright, the last little tidbit here, and I talked about it in my other video, but these, you know, these header pins that are too long, you know, don't be bashful and snip them off. Nice and clean like that. And you know, that way your board is certainly going to be lower profile. I showed that in the other video, but there you go. You know, I snip them off when I'm done, and I'm going to snip the rest off camera here. But one TeensySaber, one TeensySaber assembled. Hopefully that helps you guys.